What's up, everybody? We just came in from the garden. We got a load of carrots we just picked, so I think it's time for a canning video. So here we go. We came in from the garden. We got a load of carrots, like I said, and I would have to assume here that there's probably about 9-10 pounds of carrots. That would probably make about 9 pint jars worth. So I already brushed them off and removed the stems. So now what we're going to do is we've got to bring them over to the sink and do an initial washing. So now you're going to come over to your sink and you're going to wash the carrots that you took out of your garden. You just want to get the dirt off the skin. You're going to peel them anyway. And this is just a first step here. Just take your carrots and get any dirt off of them. Alright, so now that you initially washed them, you're just going to peel them, take the skin off here, and then once that's done, we're going to bring it back to the sink and just give it one more rinse, just to make sure that there's no contaminants. That's basically it. Just keep doing this until you get all your carrots peeled. Now that you have them peeled, you're going to come back and give them one more rinse off, just to make sure there's no contaminants on your carrots. Do that for all of them. Alright, so now we're going to take the carrots as they've been washed, peeled, and rinsed again, and we're going to cut them up. Now, I already cut off the ends here, but what you want to do is you want to be consistent. Now, I'm not a chef. I suck at knife skills, so this is going to take me probably about 4 hours to cut these things. No, really, it's going to take a little while for me to cut them, so I'm not going to show you all of them. But what I'm going to do is, oh, we got a little mess here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, basically we're going to cut them so that they are about the same size. All right, I'm trying to be consistent here. That's why I'm doing it like this. You want them to be about maybe 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick. Only because when they go inside the canner, they will reduce a little bit. They will shrink a little bit because of the cooking process, the canning process, basically. And that's really it. You're just going to keep doing this until you get all your carrots cut up. It's not rocket science, just canning. You know what I mean? Take them, throw them in your holding bowl here, and repeat the process. Just cut them until they are all done. Now that the carrots are all cut up, ready to go, let's go prepare the jars so we can start getting ready to fill them. You want to put your bottles in the oven, turn the oven on to 200 degrees, and give them a chance to warm up to temperature. It'll help sanitize them, even though it's not necessary, because when you pressure can them, the processing time will actually help sanitize the bottles. Okay, but you want them up to temperature so that when you add the boiling water mixture to them, they don't shatter, or will reduce the risk of them shattering, and that'll create just a big mess. You want to put 1.5 inches of water in your canner. I have the All-American 915 model, and that's what they require for pretty much every one of their models. I like to put a little bit more than that because I don't want the canner to run dry. Never let your canner run dry. It'll ruin everything, especially your canner. Alright, now I have hard water. If you don't have hard water, you don't necessarily have to do this, but I like to add white vinegar to mine. What that does is that's actually going to prevent the haziness that happens on the jars after you take them out of the canner when processing is done. Okay, so now you want to put your lids in a pot of water. Turn your cooktop or stovetop onto like a medium-low setting and bring them up to a simmer. Now the new lids are not required. It's not required that you do this step, but what I like to do is I like to warm them up to ensure that the actual sealing compound is warmed up, and it'll help ensure a better seal. The new ones, like I said, they don't require this. You should still get a very good seal, but I like to be a little redundant. It doesn't hurt to do this step. You also want to put a pot of water on the stove and bring it up to a boil. This is what you're going to use to fill up your jars. Make sure you turn on your canner so you can heat it up and get it to simmer. Should be about 180 degrees, and then you're ready to put the bottles in. Alright, so now we're going to add the carrots to the jars. Jars are nice and warm. And then we're going to try to leave about an inch of space on the top. If you have to rearrange some, go ahead and do that. You want, when you fill it up with the boiling water, you want an inch of headspace, which is usually right to like this lip right here. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Usually right onto the lip on the bottom is about 1 inch. Once we fill these up, we're going to add a half of a teaspoon of salt to them. Now when you put salt, you don't have to put salt, that's up to you. Carrots are kind of bland without them, so without the salt, but to each his own. I put the salt. It's not necessary, but you know, that's what I do. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add canning salt. You don't want to use anything with iron, like iodized salt, because it will react and it will make the jars become hazy inside and cloudy, kind of like the hard water will. So that's why you add the vinegar to the water. You're trying to prevent that. Will it hurt it? No, but the presentation will be bad, you know, and people don't necessarily trust the food when it looks like that, and you want to make sure that you're going to eat it, you know. So we got the boiling water, and now what we'll do, let me get this back out, I don't want to get it all over the place. We're going to add it very slowly to the jars. Hopefully the jars are warm enough so that they don't freaking crack, because that will suck. And you're going to fill it up, like I said, to about 1 inch of headspace, which is like right there. And then we got to debubble it anyway. You got to get the air out of it. By getting the air out of it, we might have to make an adjustment again, but that's okay. These are going to be nice when they're done. Alright, so now that we have the jars filled, we're going to debubble them. You got to do this so that you can get the air bubbles out of the jars. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can use the tool here. When you do that, the carrots are going to settle a little, the water level might settle a little. That's okay. We can just add a little bit more water. Once that's done, the jars are hot. Alright, some of them you're not going to be able to do that with very easily, so especially since carrots are kind of bulky, so sometimes you can kind of just spin it, get the air out. You do it gentle. You don't want to have so much bubbles in there. It won't process correctly. Alright. Canning isn't hard. It's just time consuming, but it's worth it, because you know that you're going to be able to feed your family, God forbid, an emergency or a crisis like losing a job, or, you know, a financial crisis or something comes to where food becomes unobtainable. Having your own food is invaluable. So take some white vinegar and dip a rag in it, okay? And now what you want to do is you want to remove any contaminants and oils from the rim. You just don't want it to go crazy. You just want to clean the top of all your jars so that you know you're going to provide a really good seal for the lids. Plus you're not trying to pickle your carrots here, unless you like that kind of thing. Alright. And then what you do is you're going to take your little tool here, grab a lid, grab a ring, put the lid on, and you're going to put the ring on fingertip tight, just like that. Now if you don't feel comfortable doing that, Ball makes a tool that is kind of like a little torque wrench. You put it on there and you turn it, and it will kind of let you know when it gets to the right tightness. I don't actually have one of those tools, although I may pick one up in the future just to be on the safe side. I've been doing this kind of long enough to know that they're going to seal. Just once you get resistance like that, just turn it a little bit more. That's it. So And then that's what you do for all your jars. And once we do that, we will get back to you and show you the process of placing them in the canner. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take the jars that we just sealed up, and we're going to put them in the canner and get them ready for processing here. Now here's the next step. What you're going to do is you got to make sure you got oil on your canning lid rim. Now I have like I said, the All-American has a metal to metal seal. It does not have a gasket like the Presto or other model pressure canners does. So I have to put a little bit of oil on here so that the aluminum will not actually stick to itself and become a nightmare to open up. Now a new canner can still do that. Mine is used, but it still sometimes gives me trouble. It could be finicky. You really don't want to ruin the edge of your canner, so be careful, because this is the most important part here. And just go around it and put a nice amount of oil around the edge. And here's what's going to happen. Oh, I got the canner backwards in my hand. Alright, there's a little notch right here on my canner, and there's a little arrow right on the top right here. And what you do is you kind of line them up. Well, you don't line them up first. You go off to the side and you twist them to line them up. Okay? And then you take your little clamps here, and you do them like you would do a tire. You know, 2 at a time. Not too crazy. They don't have to be too tight. But once that's done, you just kind of make sure everything's nice and tight. You kind of want to make sure that your opening is even all the way around it. Alright, and now we're good to go. And what we're going to do at this point is we are going to turn this up on high and get the canner to actually vent out of this pipe right here. It needs to vent for 10 minutes when it comes out real heavy, and I'll show you what it looks like when it gets to that point. I will actually put a close-up on it so you can try to see it, because it's going to be hard to see because it's obviously it's steam and it might not come up good on the camera. Now at my altitude, my elevation, when that happens and you let that vent for 10 minutes, then we're going to put this little weight that we have on over here. And the weight, I don't know if you can see that, the weight has different numbers on it, 5, 10, 15, okay? Under 1,000 feet, you would be usually a number 10. I've never seen anybody use a 5 before. I guess it's possible. I guess if you live below sea level, I don't know. But usually you're going to put it on a number 10, and if you're over 1,000 feet, you're going to put it on 15 pounds. And on the gauge, it will kind of show you that. Although it's kind of hard to see here, we're at a heavy vent right now, so we're going to set our time. Here we go, 10-minute countdown on the clock. Okay, so we're almost there. We got about 20 seconds or so left to go, and then we'll be able to put on the weight. Not sure if you can actually still see the steam. And we're already about 5 pounds of pressure. But these are going to be good when they're done, man. I can't wait. Alright, here we go. Now what you do is you take your weight and you put it right on. Now what we're going to do is we're going to wait for it to build up pressure. I'm going to drop my temperature down a little bit because you don't want it to blow past the actual pressure here. But you'll get familiar with your cooktop or your stove. Mine will actually be at around 3 on my temperature scale here from high. Everybody's stove or cooktop is going to be a little different. But the key is once this thing starts to go, you don't walk away from it. So now we're waiting for this gauge right here to start to dance a little bit. And once it starts to dance, it should be at the 10, 11 pounds of pressure. And then we're going to turn down the cooktop to maintain no less than 10 pounds. 11 pounds is preferable, but no less than 10 pounds. And that's because I'm at I'm under 1,000 feet. And if you don't know how to find that out, you can ask your phone, ask Google or ask Siri what my current altitude is, and it will more than likely tell you. We should be just about at that point right now. Here it comes. You can start to see that it's going to start to jiggle a little bit. There it is. Now the key is to get that to stop doing that, but only do it like 4 times a minute, 3 times a minute. So what you do is you do that by bringing your temperature slowly down, and you're going to maintain the 10, 11 pounds of pressure. If you go under it, you're going to have to start your cooking time, your processing time all over again. Okay? And for carrots, I did pints. That's going to be 25 minutes. For quarts, that's actually going to be 30 minutes. So my cooktop is usually around 3. Yours may differ. And that's going to maintain that 10, 11 pounds that's so needed to process these carrots correctly at my altitude. And that would be the same processing pressure for pretty much anything that I process at my altitude, whether it's carrots or green beans or beef or soup. Anything at my altitude would be at 10, 11 pounds of pressure. So the key here now is just to sit here and wait for it to be done and not walk away from the canner. I got to make sure that that gauge stays right there for the whole 25 minutes that it takes to process the carrots. That's very important. You don't want to walk away from your canner when you're processing. Okay, now that the processing is done and you turned off your cooktop, you're going to let the temperature come all the way down to 0 before you remove your weight. You don't want to you want to let the canner come down naturally. You don't want to prematurely vent the canner. It can cause the jars inside to implode and it would ruin everything you just did. Plus you have to make sure that's all calculated into the processing time, so you want to make sure that it goes through its complete processing time. Okay, so you can see the canner is down all the way in pressure, so now it's time to remove the weight. Alright, going to remove the weight right now. Should hiss a little bit, and then we'll wait another 10, 15, 20 minutes maybe so we can open up the top. Okay, the pressure is down. Let's see what we got. It's going to be a little hot. Always open it up away from you so any steam that comes up doesn't burn you. Alright. Oh, look at that. Look at that yummy, yummy carrot goodness. So we'll put these over here out of the way. Oh, nice. Very nice. Alright, look at this bounty we got right here. Look at that thing boiling. I love that. That means it's doing its thing, and it's getting ready to seal, and pretty soon you should start hearing these things pop. And when you hear them pop, that means that they actually have created a vacuum, and they usually have a good seal when that happens. And that's a lovely sound, by the way. But yeah, this is what it's all about right here. Canning carrots for, God forbid, disaster or hardship. And this is a skill set that should be passed down through the family, through generations, from children to children to children. Because you don't want to ever have to rely on a third party like the government to protect you or take care of you. That's your job, you know. Their job is to protect you from foreign invasion. Your job is to protect you from whatever else might happen. You got to prepare for whatever the future may bring, bottom line. And this kind of skill set will do that for you. You know, these things should be good now in a cool, dark place for 2+ years without any refrigeration. And since they're technically already cooked, God forbid you need to use them with no power, you can eat them right out of the jar. Or you can heat them up on a barbecue or make a fire, whatever you have to do, but they're already done. They're good to go. I hope this video helped and showed you how to can carrots. You can do the same thing with green beans and potatoes and all that stuff. And we'll probably be making more videos down the line to show you all that. The process is the same. The journey's, you know, a little different, but the process is the same. This is Prepper556. I want to say thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Later, YouTube.